Well, welcome everybody to another episode of Música Mezcal. I am Brandon Bagg, and I am sitting with my very dear friend, Dey Rose.
What up?
Hi, Dey. How are you?
I'm good.
Would you
I'm
like
excited.
Would you like some mezcal?
I mean, I feel like I have no choice.
You don't. You don't.
Exactly.
I mean, I presented it as an option, but I was fairly certain you'd say yes, and if you had said no, I was prepared to tell you that was not an option.
Yeah. Is that supposed to be like one shot?
No.
Okay.
No. Sip this. Sip it. It's
okay.
it's a sippy. You want to pass me a beer? I'll open that for you there. I forgot to open it before we all started rolling.
It's all good. Ooh,
There you are.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So I cut you off.
I don't know. I was just gonna say this is, the place itself is super neat. The idea.
Yeah. Well, that is give credit to our other host and producer Paco for that one.
Okay.
A little cheers here.
Ding. Right. Vancouver thing to do.
Yeah, you got to cheers for the dead.
Jesus.
So I was thinking about how long we've known each other and how we met, when we met. I can't put a finger on this specific time, but I met you as a sound tech.
Mm-hmm. At Guilt already.
At Guilt, because you were a tech there for years.
Yeah.
You're an insanely talented tech. Everyone that ever, all the musicians that worked with you always talked about it. Your mix and the way that you dealt with that room was always fantastic. And it was like a solid year that I knew you before I knew that you were also a musician.
Yeah. Well, I guess like most people most people know me as a tech first.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they find out that I'm also a musician, they're like, oh, didn't know that. But maybe it's because, I tech most of the time for work. And when it comes to music, it's just, exactly.
Yeah.
It's living in Vancouver as a musician, I feel like, unless you do it full time and you gig every single day, right? And I guess for me, I've never really been that kind of artist. So I just make music, put out songs, do gigs here and there. But it's funny that you mentioned when we met and how I even got to Guilt. This was so long ago. I think this was 2015 or 2016.
Ages ago.
Maybe even 2014. I was going to school in Nimbus, School of Recording Arts. Yep. And I was still in school for live sound, and I figured the best way to learn is to just go out and find a job. So I literally walked around downtown handing my resume, and then I didn't know about Guilt. I just saw like a little, sign.
It said live music?
Yeah. And I went downstairs.
Our old sandwich board?
Yeah, like I went downstairs and Tanya was still actually there.
Oh, yeah.
So I handed in my resume, and she's like, oh, you're applying for a server or a bartender? I said, no, I'm applying for a tech. And I got hired right there because, because she's like, what? That's so rad. And he's like, female tech, you're hired. And then I met Trevor, taught me everything, and that's, And I don't know if you were already there, though.
I was there. I went back and forth from being there while I was in theater school. So I was there before then, but I might not have been there right then, and then I was there after that. Mm-hmm. So when you think about, this might be a stupid question, but do you consider yourself a tech first or a musician first? Or is it not something that you ever think about?
That's something I never really think about. I've never really prioritized one thing over the other. I would say like pretty equally, because the other one I do for work as a job, and then the other one I do for fun. And I mean, being a tech is also fun, but I've never really, I guess both.
Do you find that having that experience as a sound technician gives you a leg up as a performer? Because I noticed, like,
Absolutely.
Last night you played a gig at Guilt and Company, and I was standing in the sound booth when you were setting up, and the language that you were, Trevor came in and he was actually, our head sound tech was actually covering
Yeah.
for someone else
Mhm.
because they got food poisoning. So he showed up like last minute.
Yeah.
And you were chatting. You were like, he was like, "What's going on?" And the language in which you spoke to him was very like, you guys were speaking the same language.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of times, like for myself as an actor,
Mhm.
the language between actor and director is like you got to learn to translate like what a director tells you.
Yeah.
And there's very few like people that can do both those.
Yeah.
But you being able to say like this, I can't repeat the vernacular, but it was like, it sounded like two techs talking to each other. And you were
Yeah.
like, this is what I need. And this is what's going on. And this is what's happening on the stage. And Trevor was like, yeah, okay, cool. Give me 15 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I was actually in school for, music. My plan was to do my 4-year bachelor's degree at UBC or CAP and go through the whole thing and be, a professional musician.
Right.
And then, I don't know, for some reason, I wanted to do something else, but still something to do with music. And so I went into the tech world. And another reason why I did so was, being a musician and performing so much, I've dealt with so many not so nice, rude technicians they've been in the industry for so long that they're just grumpy in general. So I was like, man.
I've met a couple of those.
I was just like,
I mean, we might be thinking a couple of the same people at the same time right now.
yeah, no, totally.
I'm not going to throw any names out, but we know who we're talking about.
Yep. I mean, yeah. But anyways, like, that was one of my biggest reasons why I wanted to be a tech, just to, help myself as a musician or an artist whenever I do gigs.
Right.
But also, I know the struggle when a musician can't communicate with the tech.
What they need.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. Also, another good thing about being a tech and a musician at the same time is, for example, you said Trevor took over last minute and he showed up. It doesn't matter if it's like 15, 30 minutes before downbeat. I'm not worried about it because, I'm able to communicate what I need to the tech, and it's, I guess less stress knowing, the tech stuff too.
Yeah. And you've been in Austria for the last year.
Yes.
Shout out to Tom.
Thomas.
I don't know who the hell that guy is, but whatever. Have you dipped into the music world over there at all?
I'm starting to a little bit. It's been a little bit challenging just because, it's a completely different continent, different culture, different language. They speak German there.
You're in Vienna, right?
I'm 2 hours down from Vienna. So
right.
It's called Graz. It's the second biggest city in Austria, I think. And I mean, if it was an English-speaking country, I wouldn't have had any problems. Right away, I would have found, my people or community easier and faster. But since I have to learn the culture and the language first, it's taking a little bit. But it's getting there.
How's your German?
Sehr gut. Geht schon. Ja, there's.
Yeah, I mean, you could have just told me that you wanted to like floss a stranger, and I'd be like, yeah.
No, last night too at Gil, actually, there were a couple.
Yeah, there was a couple. You spoke German on the stage. Yeah.
That was fun. It's always nice to practice the German skills, I guess.
Yeah. Has that been, because the language, the structure is similar. It's more similar to English than Italian or Spanish, but it's still like confuses the shit out of me. But I don't speak it.
It's a bit challenging just because their grammar is so many. Oh, it depends what you say.
There's like 1,000 different ways to say the word the.
Well, like everything has a gender.
Right.
Yeah, like
which is like the Romantic languages have that as well.
Yeah. So like everything has a gender, and so that's why it gets challenging because there's so many different ways to say something, and then also past tense, present, and future. There's a couple ways on how to say it, or whether you're speaking it or
Right.
writing it. So
There's different ways to say it if you're speaking it or writing it.
yes,
That just seems like,
a lot, right?
yeah. I mean,
Like
they make good cars,
unnecessary.
but
Quite unnecessary, but
Yeah.
no, it's a cool language and culture. I'm getting the hang of it a little bit. It's getting
Yeah.
there.
I've also heard amazing things about Vienna. It's like it continuously tops the charts for like most livable cities in the world.
Every year. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Have you ever been?
It's nice. It's lots of opportunities. I would say it's a lot more affordable to live there than here in Vancouver right now, in many ways. But yeah.
So do you have plans to start breaking into the music scene over there? In
I'd
Austria?
love to. Yeah. No, like that's one of the reasons why I keep coming back here is because it's always nice to find inspiration from
You
where
mentioned
you
that on
come
stage
from.
last night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So every time I come here and every time I leave, I'm more inspired. And then I go back
Yeah.
to Austria and, I want to do more music and meet more people and actually, find the opportunity because the music scene there is completely different.
Mhm.
I was mentioning that there's a lot of punk rock metal, a lot of rock.
Yeah,
over
yeah,
there.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Completely different than Vancouver's scene. But I know there's a lot of like underground genres too. And I always say there's an opportunity here. If there's not a lot of musicians and artists that do what I do, then maybe I could start something new.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You spoke, talking about your gig last night that you played. You spoke a bit about your father being a musician and writing songs together, and recording an album. Evelyn, your new album. Do you draw a lot of inspiration from your dad?
Yes, I would say so. He's the reason why I do music pretty much. He taught me from, I don't know, not since I was a kid. Yeah, I mean, he's the one that taught me how to play guitar, how to sing, how to write. We write songs together once in a while, and particularly this album, Evelyn.
Well, you mentioned last night that there was a bunch of those songs were songs that he had written.
Yeah.
Years before, and you kind of revisited.
So the idea was to collaborate together.
Right.
And he has this book from like 30 years ago. And, it's like first half is, it's the actual book on the cover of the album.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, and so like the first half of the book is like all his engineering stuff because he used to be an engineer, electrical engineer. And the other half is like poems and songs that he wrote. And we wanted to do an album. And I took some of the songs that he wrote from that book and some of the songs I wrote throughout the years and some of the songs that we wrote together.
Yeah.
And a lot of those songs he wrote, I'm pretty sure from my mom, but I'm not sure, maybe for others too along the way.
Yeah.
But and the title track is Evelyn.
There were others along the way?
No, like maybe before you met my mom.
Audrey's dad, you scandalous man.
Maybe before they met. But yeah, Evelyn, that's the title track, which is my mom's name, one of the songs.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's about my mom.
Really?
Yeah, I think.
I mean, it could be about the car from Gone in 60 Seconds. Was that Evelyn or was it? It was Eleanor.
Eleanor.
Yeah. It's a weird reference. There was. It's funny. One of the songs you mentioned 30 years ago. So 30 years ago would be like the 90s, right? Like the early 90s was 30 years ago.
Yes.
1993 was 30 years ago.
That's
And
when
one
I
of the
was born.
songs. That was the year you were born.
Yeah.
You just outed yourself. You just outed yourself
It's
in the
okay.
Dirty 30 Club. But last night at your set, you introduced a song, and it was one of the songs that your dad had written that you had collabed together. And then you started playing, and the bass line came in, and I leaned into Freya. I was like, "That sounds like a Nirvana bass line." It's
Which
like,
song was this?
I don't remember. It starts with bass.
Ooh, was it Trapped? Is this that like the super rocky like dun, 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 dun,
Totally.
like sort of like Evanescence super rock.
Yeah, and it
Yes.
totally sounded like and I looked at your dad was sitting right there, and I looked over at him, and I'm like, yeah, that dude was listening to that stuff 30 years ago for sure.
Yep. 100%.
It was neat. Yeah. Your dad's a very lovely man.
He's a very shout out to him. Stage dad.
Totally.
He's always been there every show, every gig. Yeah.
So when did you start writing?
I would say the very first song I wrote, I actually played it last night. It's called Forever and a Day. It's in the album. And that's the very first song I wrote on my own. And this was in Squamish when I moved in 2006 from the Philippines.
From the Philippines.
Yeah, I think I was, I don't know, maybe 12 or 13.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I was so proud of it. I even wrote it. I put it on his book. So I was like, and he let me do it. And I was like,
Did you write music before when you were younger, when you were still in the Philippines?
I don't think so. No, I never wrote. I did a lot of like sappy OPM, original Pinoy music covers, love songs, ballads, and a lot of church songs.
That's Filipino platinum right there. That's
OPM. You say OPM, and any Filipino would know it. That's just the genre there.
Yeah,
it's
what
never
OPM?
It stands for original Pinoy music.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, and it's pretty much just like sad songs. We call it hugot songs. Hugot means when you when you're taking inspiration from, I don't know, an experience or a heartbreak. It's like picking a flower from a pot, like hugot.
Yeah.
Right. So,
do you write like most of the songs? There, actually, we sent you a video from when we were in England. Freya and I, my partner Freya, we were in England, and we had just Spotify on a loop or something, and one of your songs came on, and it was you, but it was you singing in Tagalog. Most of your stuff that I know is you singing in English. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you got it, but we like filmed it and sent it to you. We're like, hey, I want to listen to your song.
I did. Yeah, it was. I think it was paulit ulit.
Yeah. Do you write in both languages, or do you?
I do. Yeah. But I didn't start writing Tagalog music up until I think 2018. This was when I had this crazy thing where I was, I never joined music contests or vocal contests or singing contests. And that's very huge for, Filipinos, Asian culture, or like sort of like American Idol stuff. And this was when I was going through like a big transition in my life. I had a partner for like 6-7 years, and we broke up, and I was sort of like finding my place in the music industry still, or just being an artist in general. And I just said, screw it. And I joined a singing contest, drove down to New West. This was also the day I was moving from Burnaby to downtown Vancouver. So I was really excited. I was like, heck yeah. I always wanted to live downtown Vancouver, and I'm doing it on my own. And then I got in, and they sent me to LA, and I won the rounds there. And so I represented North America, and they sent me to the Philippines a couple times and like performed at the biggest stadium in the Philippines.
Was that in Manila?
This was in Manila, yeah. And then I just got so inspired by the Filipino culture, I guess, and because I never really looked at it that way. So when I got back, I was like, oh, maybe I could write in Tagalog, and I did. And yeah, ever since then, I've been writing in Tagalog, and but mostly still in English.
Yeah, but you've played for like pretty huge crowds in the Philippines, right?
In the Philippines, yeah, there was that one time, or like 2018, like it's called Smart Araneta Coliseum, and it was I think it was like a 60,000 capacity building, but I don't think it was full, but still it was like thousands of people, and it was just the craziest moment of my life. And,
it's a little bit different from playing
the guilt show,
the 150 capacity
It's different, but I find that it's also like it's a different feeling too. I feel like when I play at Gill, it's always so personal and
Yeah.
special. I would say, yeah, obviously because I used to work there, and you guys, the staff is like family, and also the audience that Gill pulls in is just incredible. They really go there to support music, so it's always a different feeling.
Yeah, it's that they're there for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah, because nobody really knows about Guild unless you ask, hey, where's the best live music venue in
It
town?
astounds me how many people don't know about Guild. I'm like,
Right?
how do you not know about?
Well, first of
about
all, it's
this?
hidden. It's like underground, but
It's
also
true. It's true.
But I kind of like it that way because, it's you only get a certain type of audience and people that come in that truly want to support and hear real live
Totally.
music. So
Yeah.
it's nice that way.
So when you were recording Evelyn, was that recorded here?
That was recorded here, yeah, at Blue Light Studio.
Blue Light Studio. So
Yeah.
when did it come out?
In May, beginning of May this year. But it was recorded in the span of a couple years because during the pandemic, there were a lot of challenges throughout, and which was fine. It worked out. So I recorded it every time I was in town, and whenever it worked out, and it finally.
So when did you
went out.
finish recording for that?
I would say, when was the last time I was here? September.
You wrapped the recording in September?
Yeah, so in September I flew here and I pretty much did everything like on my part, like the singing and all the things that I needed to do. And then the band still worked on a couple things after. And yeah, I think by January it was finished and ready to mix and stuff, and by May it was out.
So what are the hurdles of releasing an album that you recorded in Vancouver from Austria?
Oh, it's everything pretty much.
What does that even look like?
Oh man, I mean, I'm the type of person where like I just try and make it work. It doesn't matter what the
Right.
situation is. And I knew that like, everyone would say that's such a dumb idea. Why are you releasing an album and you're not even in the country? But the thing is, I don't know. There's no specific country or place where my audience is because I always go to the Philippines or Canada and now
Right.
Austria too. So for me, it didn't really matter. Like I wanted to
Yeah.
release the album.
Have you looked on Spotify to see like where your listeners are from?
Yes. So my top countries are Canada and the Philippines, but
Right.
now it's the U.S. and the Philippines. So Canada is actually knocked down to like
Cool. Got US.
third.
Yeah.
But yeah, U.S. is pretty cool.
Yeah, I wish they would show you like where in the US, because that's like the US is such a weird place. It's like
Yeah.
it's structurally and culturally, it's more like the EU than it is like any other country.
Yeah. No,
Except they all speak English.
Yeah, that would be cool. But I don't know if Spotify does that. I think
Spotify, I don't think it does. I think
just
it
the
just shows
country.
you the country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I have some random countries like India or something. Or
That's cool.
It's cool.
Yeah. Have you been to India?
I've never been.
I'm
India.
going for the first time.
I
in,
know.
like,
I
a
heard
week.
for a 4-day wedding event.
Yeah, I think just it's so cool that like people
Yeah.
just like get married for 4 days.
Why not?
Like
You're spending all this money anyways. Why just do it for 1 day? Like
Exactly.
you might as people are flying in to see you and to be there for your
yeah,
wedding.
you might as well
might-
entertain me for 4
Yeah,
days. Like,
exactly.
I don't even know
Yeah.
you, and I'm flying across
So
the planet.
the actual wedding is on the 4th day, I'm assuming. Or-
I don't know. I don't know how it works. I'm just along for the ride.
That's cool
To be,
though.
yeah.
We're in India.
Pune. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's 3 hours outside of Mumbai.
Okay. It's hot in here, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Beer, cheers.
Beer, cheers. That's when you do another one of these. You take,
Hi.
It's just so you know.
Is that like a blooper?
We are not going to edit that out. Just so
That's
you're
okay.
aware.
I'm swearing my balls off. Oh, this reminds me of like Hot Wings. You know that podcast?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
totally does. And
Yeah.
I'm like, now I know how they feel, but except they're eating hot wings.
Yeah, there's no hot wings. There is mezcal.
Oh,
Here.
okay, right. We still have
It'll
to
cool
do
you
this.
down, I promise. So, what's on your horizon?
Lots of traveling. I've always loved traveling, and
That's what you and Tom met
in Vietnam, yeah. While I was in the Philippines, when this whole thing blew
You met
up.
in Vietnam while you were in the Philippines? That's
No, I mean-
fucking complicated.
No, before I went to the Philippines, I stopped by Vietnam to see my uncle that I hadn't seen in so long, and
And you met a
it's one of those
tall
Cinderella
Austrian drink of water.
stories. What was that?
You met a tall Austrian drink of water. You met Tom.
A tall Austrian drink of water?
Drink of water.
Drink of water? Is
Yeah,
that
you never heard that expression?
No.
Uh,
Like a fresh?
I think it just means like a hot man.
Oh, yes, if you put it that way, yes.
Yeah.
No, it's one of those things where like it was my first time traveling alone. Same for him, and I was going from north to south. He was going from south to north, and we just met in the middle. Met for one day.
Yeah.
We talked. We became friends, and yeah, and then we just started chatting.
Wait a minute. You spent one day in Vietnam together?
Yes. Oh, it gets crazier. I
Okay,
don't know.
you have to unpack this for me a little bit. Like,
Okay, so what happened was, we met in the middle. Well, I had my route planned out throughout my trip, and I had specific places and cities, and I was traveling with a motorcycle and sleeper bus, and
you're riding the motorcycle?
whenever I could, I would
Yeah.
drive with the motor, not like a crazy motorcycle, but a little moped, a little bit cooler than a moped, but yeah,
And one up from moped.
yeah.
But like not full motorcycle.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. Gotcha. Yeah.
And then
A motorcycle you didn't need a license to drive.
I don't think you
But it's
need a
cooler
license.
than a moped.
Yeah.
Like you don't need a license in Vietnam.
I don't think so. No, I was going to my next spot or like stop, and someone I had met from that town said, "No, you have to stop by this place called Tam Kok in Ninh Binh. It's a beautiful place. It's tiny. Not a lot of people go there. People usually skip it, right?" And so I was like, "Okay, that's cool." So I arrived there, and I was planning to stay just one night and leave the next day. And I met Tom, and I missed the bus. He actually made me miss the bus because he was, I don't know, I think it's an Austrian thing. Being an Austrian, it's just like, "Oh, it's okay, whatever. Just
You think
be
that's why he
chill."
made you miss the bus?
I don't know. Who knows?
That's
But
not why he made you
I was
miss
like-
the bus.
I was like waiting for the bus, and it's like, it's gonna come. It's just a little bit late, and I was like, we were having beers with a bunch of other people too,
Yeah.
and I missed the bus, so we had that extra night to spend together. And I left. We separated the next day, pretty much, and then
So,
we
like,
just kept.
Even what was it? Was it even 24 hours?
Not, I guess not, because we hung out midday, like middle of the day, and then maybe even late afternoon.
And you just kept in touch.
And we just kept in touch.
Okay, have you sold the rights to like rom-com writers? Like no one does that.
I know. I don't know. I think it was just one of those things where, okay, well, I'm traveling. I'm doing my thing.
Yeah. And where did
Why
you get?
not?
Where did you guys meet up next?
And so it gets crazier, right? So I was on my way down to Ho Chi Minh. He was going to Hanoi, last stop. And he did this Ha Giang loop where you drive for 3 days on a motorcycle until you reach the next town, like the border from China and Vietnam. And 6 hours into the first day, he tells the group, "I think I'm going to go back. I'm going to turn around." So he turns around travels half a day, goes back to the city, takes the bus, goes on an airplane, flies to Hanoi, and sees me for 10 hours before I fly out to the Philippines.
Just because he knew you were going to be in Hanoi.
Yeah. And he was going to fly out back to Austria the next day, and I was going to fly out to the Philippines. And so he traveled for half a day just to see me for 10 hours. So we hung out for 10 hours, separated ways the next day. 1 month later, he's in Austria, calls me and is like, hey, I'm going to go to Canada, or I'm going to go to the Philippines. He goes to the Philippines after a month. So we traveled the Philippines for 3 weeks. And then I came back to Canada. I'm still living here. Calls me middle of summer. He's like, I think I'm going to go to Canada. So he visited here in the summer. And then...
He literally chased you all over the planet.
Yes. Not a lot of people know about that story, but I guess now
everyone.
It's out. Yeah. Man, this tequila or it's not tequila.
It's not.
This mezcal works. And then I flew to Austria that same winter to meet, just to see where he's from, and then it's just been back and forth until I decided to move there.
Okay, important question.
Mm-hmm.
I've asked you this before.
Yes.
How's his Tagalog?
Shit. It's terrible. He knows like 2 words. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's
Just
okay.
fine.
I'm not. He doesn't need to.
Just drag him to the Philippines and he'll have to learn.
He doesn't need. I mean, he goes there.
Do you feel like you would like your extent of German that you do know is because you live in Austria?
Yes, absolutely. I feel like, you can survive, but I feel like you don't really, you won't take in the whole culture unless you actually speak the language.
Well, you're always an outsider until you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And people appreciate it when you're visiting their country and you know the language.
Is that your 3rd language?
4th, actually.
What's your other secret language? Is it French?
No, so it's actually it's another Filipino language. So in the Philippines we have like 7,000
Oh, you
plus
speak 2
islands.
dialects?
It's not. I wouldn't say dialects because a dialect at least you would understand, right? But so my mom and my dad, they come from different sides of the country, and since I grew up with my dad's side family, I know his language more, or I guess dialect. And my mom, I know maybe a couple, but
how similar are they?
Not similar. I don't understand my mom at all.
You're like, I can speak this language, but I don't understand it at all.
No, like so I speak my dad's language, dialect, Kapampangan, fluently because I grew up with his parents.
Right.
And I also speak Tagalog, which is the main language over there.
Oh, okay, but you don't speak your mom's. Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, and some people, if you go down south, some people don't even know the national language. They just speak their own. Yeah. So it's
How many? Do you know how many like national languages there are in the Philippines? Is it just Tagalog or
Tagalog is the main one? Yeah.
Main one.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Very close. I think it's quite close to Spanish.
It's close to Spanish in terms of how many people speak it.
No, it's just like the language itself. If you speak Tagalog, it's quite. I find that it might be easier for you to learn how to speak Spanish. Yeah, there's lots of Spanish influence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like my last name, Arellano, is Spanish.
Is Spanish, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I still can't pronounce.
Arellano.
Yeah, because I can't roll my R's. Everyone picks on me because I can't roll my R's. I'm so uncool.
Yeah, normally it's people say Arellano, which is still cool, I guess.
I think I've heard the most people say Arellano.
Arellano.
Yeah. Yeah. You just got that. Yeah, you have to do the roll of the R.
But
what are you talking about? Your name's Dey Rose.
Well,
but the double L, so you have to do the roll
you have
of the
to
R.
do, and then Lia, even though it's only LA.
Yeah,
it's a weird thing there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get there eventually.
There's no pressure.
I'm not going to get there eventually, so I'm glad there's no pressure.
But you have to let me know when you finally get it. You have to like do a recording as proof.
Sure, I can do that.
Okay, cool. Deal.
Yeah. Yeah. So how you're in Vancouver this spell
until the 7th.
Are you doing any of the gigs while you're here?
No, I think Guilt was the only one. I just really wanted to focus on, visiting family and friends. Right. And doing a bunch of nature stuff like hiking because I miss the nature here and the mountains here, and the lakes.
I mean, Austria has mountains, doesn't it?
Yes, but no lakes. There is, but it's you have to drive quite a bit to reach them, but here
Right.
they're like everywhere. The ocean is everywhere. Austria is like in the middle of
In the
Europe.
middle.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Are you? Totally forgot what I was going to say. That's when I drink mezcal.
Yeah. Okay.
That's how we do that.
Like shaking.
Are you still burning up? Is mezcal cooling you down?
I think it's calming me down a little bit more. But no, Sam is calming me down.
Sam's coming down.
She's so sweet.
So tell me more about your album. I think it's as someone who lost their mother. I think it's amazing that you named your record after your mom. That's fucking so beautiful.
What do you mean for someone who?
Mom, as in my mom is dead.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant loves.
Lost.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
We told the story last night on stage about the process of recording that album and writing that album and naming it after your mom. Could you, for the viewing audiences, go back into that detail a little bit, talk about that album?
Yeah, I mean, it was always it's been a little bit tough to like talk about it just because, but I think it's at this point where honestly, like, you just kind of have to be honest with everything, really. So the whole idea was to record the album, dedicated to my parents, dedicated to their story, which is still dedicated to their story. That's never gonna change. And last summer, my parents separated, and so it's been a little bit weird to. Okay, how do I even
to record an album with your dad and then name it after your mom?
Yeah, I mean, like
while they're separating.
By the time they separated, the album was pretty much done already, right? And everything was already scheduled to be released, and I just sort of like shifted a few things. So instead of focusing more on their story, I kind of wanted to have it be a bit more of like an encouragement about life where, things always happen. Every situation happens and you just never know. The point is you just kind of have to like keep going and move on and like make something out of it, make an inspiration out of it, whatever that means. And yeah, I mean, now they're friends and we're spending time together. So it's good.
Yeah. How many different is there a lot of musicians that played on that record?
Yes. So the main musicians were Daniel Ruiz, like all Guilt regulars.
Dan Ruiz?
Yeah. I know, you guessed it. I guessed it here.
Yeah. He's done. Yeah. He's fantastic.
Oh, he's so great.
Yeah.
Jeanse, of course.
Jeanse, yeah.
Alvin.
Whose partner was played with you last night, right?
She
Vanessa?
was there. Vanessa, yep. Alvin, Brendan.
Who I've also had on the show. Yeah.
For keys, Amir Coro. I don't think he's ever played at Gil. He's this younger Filipino guy from Cap. Fantastic dude. Also, a couple Filipino musicians as well for the Tagalog song, because there's one Tagalog track that I recorded way before. Uriah Clavio and I'm blanking out on the name. Jeff Toledo.
Jeff. Did you go through Cap?
I didn't. No, I wish I did.
There's so many. I've talked to so many musicians, especially in this, in this community that have all gone through Capilano. It's quite a lot of them.
A lot, and also just came out so talented. It's insane.
But yeah, well, you mentioned Alvin. Like he's a phenomenal musician and such a sweet human being.
Yeah,
and he just like I walk into Guilt there's Alvin.
Yeah, it's so sweet. Yeah, you say Alvin, everybody knows Alvin.
Yeah, because he plays with everybody.
Yeah,
but I outed him twice on the podcast as being like my favorite new musical slut. Our musical whore. I think I said slut once and whore once.
Because everybody wants him.
Because everybody wants him, and he says yes to everyone.
Yeah.
And then I finally got him on, and I told him on the show that I had referenced him as a musical horn. I hope he wasn't offended.
I don't think so. I feel like in Vancouver, that's quite a compliment. You should have.
Yeah.
Also, that's how I feel about Jean Say. It's like, whenever I look for a bassist,
I haven't
my
had John Say on the
first-
show yet.
you should.
Yeah.
But you'll have to learn how to speak French, I think.
No, that's probably never going to happen.
Nice, great. So many great musicians here, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. That's one thing that I really miss in Austria.
That community of
Yeah.
musicians.
Yeah, and everybody's just so close.
Yeah.
I think
I imagine it exists over there as well. You just gotta crack into
I'm
it.
sure. Yeah, I'm sure it does. It just have to
Yeah.
kind of use my way through it, right?
Yeah. Plans to stay in Austria long term?
I wouldn't say I don't know if I can say long term just yet. I just renewed my visa for 2 years, and not to say that I'm gonna stay there for 2 years,
yeah.
but it's just like a good security that
Totally.
whenever I want to, if I want to stay a bit longer, I can. The country won't kick me out, but I love coming back and forth between there and here and the Philippines. So
Yeah.
yeah.
How often do you you said back and forth between here and there in
So,
the Philippines?
in the last couple years, I've managed to. Usually, I go to the Philippines between February and April.
you still have lots of family there, right?
Yeah, everybody there. Yeah, and my dad just moved there from Canada. So
Yeah, your dad actually had told me last night that I could basically move to the Philippines and
you're always welcome.
and live with your father.
he tells everybody that, but that's just the type of person he is. He's so welcoming.
He's like, you always have a home in the Philippines. I'm like,
but you
cool,
do. But
cool. I love the Philippines.
But
I spent a summer there when I was a kid.
You did.
Yeah.
Where?
Manila. I think the clinic that my mom worked at. My mom was a midwife, and I think it was in Quezon City.
Oh, okay. Very city central.
But yeah, I remember there was Green Hills.
Green Hills, the nice part.
And then I remember the Mega Mall.
There's so many mega malls. It's like we have the biggest malls in Asia.
Yeah.
SM Mega Mall.
I was very young. I was 7 or 8.
Okay.
And we were there because my mom was working at a women's shelter.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a cool experience.
Yeah, you and Freya should definitely go back and visit some of the cool islands there. It's so cool.
Yeah.
It's lovely. And it's cheap. I mean, the flight is, if anything, the flight's a bit expensive, but when you're there,
Is
it's
it like
quite
I
cheap.
find? Is it the flight there that's expensive, or the flight back that's expensive?
I would say it's both.
Well, because I only ask because I'm flying to India in like a week and a half, and I booked the flights just directly through the airline because I've had too many bad experiences from trying to book them through like one of those like Expedia or one of those other rinky-dink online things.
Yeah.
So no, I'm just going to book it through the airline. And when I was booking the flights through Air India, the flight to India was $700 and change.
Okay.
The flight from India was $1,300.
What? You can't do like.
So, but it was like I did a round trip. But
yeah.
when I looked at like the breakup, like you can fly to India one way for $700. But to do a round trip, for 2 of us to do a round trip, it cost us over five grand.
That's so much.
So it's
That's
like
insane.
where is the charge there? Is it like a charge to?
I don't know. That's so expensive. I guess in general, flights to Asia are quite expensive.
Yeah.
More expensive than Europe, I would say, because a round trip in Europe, if you book it early enough, you could get it for like $1,200.
We booked them pretty last minute.
Okay.
Because neither of us had any money. We waited till we had money and then we booked them.
Yeah, but that'll be worth it though. India just seems like a completely different world.
I'm really excited. Yeah.
Awesome.
So do you have are you working on any writing projects currently?
Funny that you ask. I've never actually told. I don't think anybody knows. Nobody knows, or not even my dad or Tom. So I've been writing
Tom and Dad,
down.
shut up. She's telling a secret. Don't listen.
So I've been writing down ideas on my phone actually, like throughout the last couple years. Of so my idea for the album, I think I'm gonna call it Disconnect, and it's essentially every time a day or a specific scenario inspires me, I write it down, and I write down a general idea for the song, and I want it to be both my disconnection from when I left Vancouver to go to Austria, and also
Cool.
my disconnect from what do you call it, from everybody in a good way too, to like focus on myself and really figure out who I am and what I want. So I want it to have some of more of like the sad parts and also the positive happy parts, like inspiring part. So yeah, there's a few ideas there.
Do you have do you take voice notes?
Not voice notes, but when I have a song idea, I voice memo it.
Like, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, when you have a song idea, do you like go la 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 la?
I
and just,
do.
sing
Like I have
a bit?
so many on my phone.
On your phone, is your phone just like a litany
list.
of just like 5 to 25 second like little
Yeah.
song clippets of
Absolutely.
you like singing random stuff?
Absolutely. Ranging back from, I don't even know, like years and years ago. And then sometimes, and it's not very often I go back to it. Like sometimes I go through it one night, I don't know, when I've had a couple of drinks or whatever. And I'm just like, damn, what? I had that idea?
Are those usually like vocal ideas in terms of like, are they lyrical or are they instrumental? Like, is it like if I were to scroll through your voice memos,
I think a pretty good
if I were to
combination.
hack your phone, would it be like you being like, would it be like a lyrical like limerick, or would it be just like vocal sounds?
I think a pretty good combination, but maybe much more on vocal ideas. And then a lot of the times I'm with an instrument anyways, like a guitar, and I just like doodle a bit just so I don't forget the
Right.
melody. It's so funny. I remember this one time. Sorry, I have to say this because I remember one time I'm working at Guilt years and years ago, and the first time I heard Jen Hodge play, and I was mixing for them first
Right,
time
yeah.
on a Wednesday night, and I was so inspired by just her and like jazz in general. And I was literally like, while they're playing, I'm like, I docked down in the booth while mixing, and I pulled out my phone and I like recorded something on my phone, just like a little
Yeah,
idea
yeah.
for like jazzy stuff. I don't remember what it is, but I just remember that moment.
You remember the moment of doing it.
Yeah.
When you write, do you write like melody first or lyric first, or is it a combination of all of the above? If whatever the mood strikes.
Yeah, I guess whatever, but I find for me it's easier to do melody first, and then that's hard to answer actually. Maybe melody first. It depends. If I'm writing an English song, then I do melody first.
Is that
I wouldn't say
because
that.
it's easier to add English words to a melody for you?
Actually, it's the other way around. So if it's an English song, a lot of times I have lyrics idea, like just a poem or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I just put it aside. And then one day I might have like a melody idea, and then I have a list of like melodies and like poems or lyrics. And then if this melody feels right for these lyrics, then I combine them. Sometimes I do that. I don't know
Right.
if that's something that musicians do, but
I mean, you're a musician and you do that. So that is
Yeah,
something that
so-
musicians do by definition.
I guess so. But yeah, no, it's always different. I guess I never So I've tried before to like really sit down and tell myself I'm gonna write a song, but it just never works for
I will
me.
now write a song.
Yeah, and then I sit there and I'm just like, I could have like the best view ever and stare into the clouds or the mountains or
Yeah.
the seas, and it just doesn't come out. I think for me, it's just more, when inspiration actually strikes or like a particular moment happens, or
Do you find that inspiration strikes you in certain emotional states? Because there's that old that there's the like everyone is just obsessed with sadness and artistry. It's like, oh, you can't make good art unless you want to slit your wrist tomorrow.
well,
But like there's as much as that, like there is a small grain of truth to that. Like that we do have a capacity to make beautiful relatable pieces of connectable art across all fields of art when we're in our most vulnerable and deepest parts of sadness, because we're so vulnerable and because we open ourselves up to that ether. But
Yeah.
look at that, I'm banging the table. But do you find that you're more receptive to the winds of artistry in certain moods?
Well, I hate to break it to you, but I'm one of those people.
You're one of the sad fucking people. Yeah, I'm the same way. I can't.
I can't. Like,
I've never written
tried.
anything fucking, be it literature or music or any like.
Nah, I don't know. I mean, it's not to say I'm a sad person.
If I haven't written
but-
anything in a long time, it's because I've been happy for a while.
Exactly. No, I don't know. I've just, not to say I'm a sad person, but I just connect more with like sappy
yeah.
songs and just,
Did you go
nostalgic.
through an emo phase?
In high school, maybe like wearing eyeliner and stuff, but
But I
not
mean, like listening to
actual-
emo music. Did you go through an emo music phase?
I think the closest I've gone was Evanescence,
Right. I mean, yeah, I'm sure.
but
Yeah.
not really. Not
Doesn't
for a
really
long
count.
time.
But like, yeah.
No, mostly I
You
went
smoked, but you didn't inhale.
pretty much.
That's pretty much.
Yeah,
that's
no,
pretty
I
much
don't
what it
think
is.
I wouldn't consider going through that stage, but I went through a long time. I think I'm still in that stage of like ballad, like rock sad ballad.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I think that's. I'm just gonna come out and say it. I think that's your cultural heritage.
Yeah. I mean, I've tried to like branch out from it, trying to write a happy song or like more poppy songs, or even like dabbling into like blues and jazz and all that stuff. But
How do you feel about
know.
Roxette?
How do I feel about what?
Roxette.
Roxette. I
Yeah.
feel just the closest to it. I don't know, like maybe because I listen to. I'm named after Axl Rose. Did you know that?
You're named after Axl Rose?
Yes. So my dad named me Axl Rose, and my mom said, "No, are you kidding me? We'll split it." So she gave me Audrey, and I kept a Rose.
My sister's name is Rose.
Oh.
Her middle name is Rose.
Okay.
She goes by Rosie, but my sister's name is Kimberly Rose.
Beautiful. No,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad I have.
She was not
What
named
Rosie?
after Axl Rose.
No, can you imagine like if people just call me Axel? I think that would be strange.
I don't know. I think I'm just gonna start calling you that from now till forever.
Axel, well, do it. No one calls me that, so
Yeah.
sometimes I wish I was named Axel Rose. To be honest, I saw him in Vienna once, or like Guns N' Roses last summer.
You saw them last summer.
In
Yeah.
Vienna.
The last Guns N' Roses concert I heard about was when they were supposed to play here,
And then it got canceled, or
and they got canceled because they couldn't get him on a fucking plane. And then I think people rioted. I think there was a riot, like a mini riot.
why didn't? Was there a reason why he wasn't on the plane?
Because he's a piece of shit.
Could be, yeah. No, I mean, like, I'm happy I saw it, but I'm sure it's completely different vibe than like from the 80s, right? You know?
Yeah.
Ah.
I mean, was he ever was Axl Rose ever talented,
I don't know.
or
I
was he
think
just like in the right place at the right time and on the right amount of drugs?
probably? But you know, I grew up listening to him, and
So did I.
Yeah.
Yeah. Appetite for Destruction. Fucking great
Yeah.
album. Great album.
Favorite song, November Rain,
hmm
or like
That's
This I
Use Your
Love.
Illusion, though, isn't it?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know. This is, yeah, I don't know. I think I liked him. I like at
Yeah.
least, you know.
You're not on trial here. You're allowed to like Guns N' Roses. I also like Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
I just feel like for my own sense of self-respect, I also have to just acknowledge to the universe that I simultaneously know they're trash.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I love them. They're great.
Yeah. It's funny because
I'm not doing any favors in the Guns N' Roses community here.
No, it's fine because actually, during the concert, after the concert was finished last summer in Vienna, so many people were mad. Actually, they're like, "Whoa, waste some money! Like, why? What? That was such a piece of shit concert." Blah blah blah. And I was just happy because they sang all the songs that I loved growing up. So,
Yeah.
no, I feel you.
You saw
though,
them in
you.
Vienna.
In Vienna, yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So we are down to cheers time.
Okay.
So can I? You have one.
And
already.
we've been doing that the whole time, or?
I'm gonna just pour myself a tiny little splash because I feel like I've had more than you.
That's okay.
Sending off your album Evelyn is available
It's on everywhere, pretty much. Spotify, Bandcamp,
wherever
iTunes,
you're.
pretty much whatever platform you're listening through, it's there. It's also on YouTube for people who don't want to pay for a monthly subscription. There's
Are
audio
you? Do you have any other gigs coming up?
there. In Vancouver, no, not yet. But it's one of those things where sometimes I just book gigs last minute.
Right.
So I still have couple weeks here. So
And do you have you've got a website, right?
I have a website, deyrose.com.
Deyrose.com. So when you do gigs, they pop up on deyrose.com.
They don't actually. I'm very lazy.
Fuck me then. Jesus balls.
Yeah, I should be better with that. But on my Instagram and Facebook, usually there's Dey Rose Music on Instagram and Dey Rose on Facebook. Those are the platforms that I use mostly. But then again, I'm just so bad with like putting it out there. I just kind of, do my gig and whoever shows up, shows up.
Shows up. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Fuck self-promotion. It's awkward and weird at the best of
It
times.
is, but honestly, it's important.
I know.
It's so
honestly,
important.
I'm terrible at it, which is why I don't have any work right now.
It's like you could be the most talented person. You could be putting out the best stuff, but if nobody knows about it, then it's not going to get any attention.
Yeah.
It makes sense, right?
It just feels awkward.
It
feels
does.
like-
It's
feels
like
a
you're
bit-
selling yourself.
It feels a
or
bit
something.
masturbatory as well. You're like,
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's weird. Okay.
Dey Rose, thank you so much.
Thank
for
you.
coming on to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's so fun.
Love you.